back to the Small Business Show. I'm your host, Lori Brooks. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This week, I have the pleasure of chatting with Mario Castellanos, CEO and founder of Mystery on Main Street. Mario, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much, Lori, for allowing me to tell you a little bit about myself and what it is I'm doing.
Certainly, we are super excited to dive into your journey and hear all about your practice. But before we do, I want to rewind the clock just a bit. Let's go back to the days when a parent, an aunt, an uncle, or a mentor, or even a teacher might have asked you what it is you wanted to be when you grow up. Mario, what was the answer to that question for you?
That was easy. As a kid, I wanted to become a lawyer.
Ah, there you go. What inspired the legal field for you?
You know, that's a great question that I never really thought about, but I think it's something that I've always enjoyed. Even though I wanted to be a lawyer, I've always been a salesman. I've been a salesman since I was 5 years old. And I think perhaps watching some of these television shows where you get to speak in front of a bunch of people and trying to convince them to go one way or go the other way, depending on who it is that you want to defend or who it is that you're defending. Because not only did I want to be a lawyer, but I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. I think a lot of that also comes from just seeing people that were put in situations that they shouldn't have been put in, and then needed somebody to help them to get out of it. And I think that had a lot to do with it.
So tell us, what was it that you were selling at the age of 5?
I was going to my neighbors and I was telling them, look, I'll cut your lawn for $3 or $5, whatever it is that I figure I could get at the time. And as soon as I'd get somebody to agree to it, I'd run back home and tell my dad, hey, I got me one. And then my dad would say, oh my God. So it's sort of like, what do they call that? Reverse child abuse, right? Because in this case, it was the child who was doing the abuse. And my poor dad, he would go out there and he would cut the lawn and I'd get the $3 or $5 and, you know,
Oh, that's so funny.
give him a big hug and things are good.
Now that's a good one, Mario. That is a good one. Most child entrepreneurs are working themselves or selling the lemonade. I like how you went out, made the sale, and then contracted dad to do the work. Like,
That's
now,
right. I was in
hand it over.
I was in the third-party contracting before it became a thing.
I love it.
Something similar. I did something similar later on as a young adult. I think just maybe at the age of 18, where I would go to car dealerships and I would tell them the same thing. I'll wash your cars. And they said, well, wait a minute, we've got porters that will do that. Yeah,
Right.
but I will wash these many cars in this amount of time for this amount of money. And they'd say, well, I can't pass that up. So what I did is I went out and I hired individuals to do that. And my office, I'm from Miami. There was no cell phones. So at that time. So my office was a phone booth while I waited at the beach. So I was at the beach on the sun, under the sun, and I'd go back to the phone booth and I'd call up and say, how my guys doing? Oh, they're doing good. Okay. And at the end of the day, I'd go to all the different dealers and I'd collect, and these fellows would come and see me the next day and I'd pay them.
I love it. That is entrepreneurship at its best. Make it work. It doesn't matter where you are or how you're gonna accomplish. If you can get the job done, you were going to get the job done, regardless as to what the resources were around you. You know, back in the days, long before, like you said, long before we even had cell phones to communicate in the manner that we were, you went ahead and took it upon yourself. Listen, I'll make an office anywhere. Nowadays, luckily, technology has caught up to you and we truly can make an office anywhere. So what were some of the first steps you feel like you took when it came to, you know, okay, you had the car dealership, once you decided, all right, I really enjoy working for myself. This really is the lifestyle that I'm appreciating, being an entrepreneur. What were some of the first steps you
I think in my case, it's like so many, right? That you're working for a company and
took?
things didn't necessarily go as you would like. Maybe you were let go because there wasn't enough business, or you were fired because you were disinspired, or maybe you've had it with the company that you're working with. So in my particular case, the first, I'm going to call legitimate company, right? That it was an actual corporation as opposed to what I just described now, and even a couple I haven't gone into prior to that. But the first opportunity I had was to form my own company was back in, I'm going to say 84 perhaps, where I was working for a, a distributor of television broadcasting equipment. My background is communications and electronics, and from consumer communications electronics, I went into television broadcasting, and working with this broadcaster for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. I made the decision based on things that were going on that it was time to move on. So I talked to a couple of customers that we had, told them I'm leaving, and they said, look, we'd like to follow you. So long story short, I opened up my own business. I had some customers that were ready to do business with me right on the spot, and that's exactly what I did. So I was lucky, and that I got some good customers and some good business at that time. And I kept that open as long as I could. And from there, I went back into the corporate world. And soon after that, I went back to working on my own.
You had the will, the drive, the interest, and you knew that it was something that you wanted to have as a part of your life. You took on a position with a business with, many of us do. And then at some point in time, we decide that it's not the position for us, whether it's, it's just the way of the world, regardless as to what the decision was at that point. So you decided to then form your own corporation, and you had that open for some time. And I love how you explained, and even still, you went back to a different position at some point and then decided, you know what? I really do want to be an entrepreneur once again. I love how you explain that yo-yo effect of entrepreneurship, because I feel like so many people try to describe entrepreneurship as this one and done. Like, okay, I made the decision, that's it. I'm an entrepreneur from here on out. And that's not necessarily the way it goes. There are moments of stepping in and out of the role of being a small business owner throughout the journey. So describe that more for us. Explain to me a little bit more about your first corporation, what you were doing there, the successes that you had, and what that decision was to then decide to go back to a different corporation.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I was selling the television broadcasting equipment at the same time that it's like any business. When you do try to focus on the sector that you're in, that's to me the very first piece of advice that I would give anyone. If you're in a particular sector and somebody comes along and says, hey, that's great, but I could use this other thing, you should think very long and hard before you divert your attention to something else, even if you're familiar with it. My suggestion is stay on track with whatever that you have in mind, not necessarily lose sight of that other opportunity or that other potential, because you don't know where that's going to lead. But you really want to put all your eggs, you really truly at the very beginning do want to put all your eggs in one basket, because you want to target a particular audience. You want to focus on a particular market, and that's what I did. That's how my successes were originally. One of the I've met a lot of people. I've been to a lot of places in my lifetime, and I've had, in this particular case, I had a great opportunity to do a job for the Catholic Church. The Pope was coming down to South America. One of the TV stations there got a hold of me and they said, look, can you help us with this? Because we need some logistics helps. We need some broadcasting equipment we don't have. Can we rent it from you? I was able to locate the equipment that they have, rent it to this broadcast station, got a great opportunity to meet and talk to the Pope for quite some time. At that time was Pope John Paul, and did that job, made a whole lot of money from it. And I was able to reinvest that in the company and continue. And I continued along that television broadcasting path. I went into other areas. I did a little bit of assembly work. I started assembling satellite equipment, all of it, again, broadcasting equipment.
Mhm.
I got a chance to be in front of the camera on a couple of occasions. There's a show back then called Miami Vice.
Mhm.
And in speaking to someone, they said, look, we could use, we just need an extra today. Could you help us? I happened to be on the set to do something, and I was one of their extras, and that led to a couple of other things in front of the camera. But to get back to what I was getting at, it was all interrelated, and it all helped me and my business grow. And I continued to do that until about 88, and then two really huge companies got into the market. So I was a little fish, and these two humongous fish, whales, they decided to get into the business of selling into Latin America, and they did that, which it was very difficult for me, even with my most loyal customers. So I was squeezed out, and I had to close down the business and start working for another company, and that's what I did at that time.
Thank you so much. I thank you for unpacking that for us. Do you see what you left out? You left out the opportunity to meet the Pope, your episode of Miami Vice, as you were flying through this journey that you've had, Mario. You must share what episode so that we can check it out for your cameo appearance in Miami Vice.
There's actually a couple of them.
Look at you.
One of them was an extra. The extra, with the extras, that's all you are. You're just one in the crowd. I think I was dressed
Right.
as a police officer at that time. On another one, they actually wanted me to have a speaking part. Now, in order to have the speaking part, you had to join the union. So I joined the union, got the speaking part. I was an attorney sitting next to, I think, the main character, not the main guest character for that show. And I didn't speak, though. I take that back. I did speak, but they cut that out. So I was next to the main character. And then also, there's a backstory behind that. But anyway, so now I'm a member of the Actors Union, but I decided not to continue along that line because it wasn't something that I was interested in. I mean, the first thing that I thought of, like most people think, right? Oh, this is great. I get to be in front of the TV. I become rich and famous, yada, yada, yada. And I got an agent, and then the agent says, okay, I want you to go over here and you'll be in queue to talk to these people. I said, what do you mean by in queue? And they said, well, there's a whole lot of people that are going to be interested in this particular role. Well, why are they talking to me then if there's a whole lot of people? Aren't they interested in me already? Well, there's 100 people that are interested. You mean I got to stand in line with 100 people? She says, you're lucky if it's only 100 people. It might be a lot longer. And I remember looking at the agent. She said, call a cattle call, son, because I was younger at that time. And I said, you know what? Thanks, no thanks. I am out of the acting business. I had no intention of standing in line so that somebody could say, yeah, you're out of here. So that was my short-lived acting career.
I love it.
But the backstory is that again, for Miami Vice, I was driving a pretty cool car at the time. It was Mercedes-Benz AMG, very, very cool. And I got that when I went to Germany, that's another story, but I was able to get it in Germany, bring it into the US for like a third of its worth. And they liked the car, so it was also used for a completely different episode in Miami Vice. So yeah, I had a lot of first I'm from Miami. Second, I use in the show and I get my car used in the show. So that was an eventful period of my life.
I'm just curious if you ever got the opportunity to connect the dots. I'm hoping I get to connect for you right now, because you may not have grown up to be in the legal field, but you got to play one on TV, Mario.
That's it. That's actually, let me tell you something. I've actually said that, right? There used to be a commercial to that effect, where I've been in a situation and somebody has said to me, well, are you a lawyer? No, but I did play one on TV.
Love it.
I forgot to do this. So yeah,
I love
it
it.
happened.
Absolutely love that. That's a good one. Mario, I would love to know what it is that you are doing now with Mystery on Main Street. Tell us a bit about your business today.
Sure. So a very fast forward from that period of time, I continued to get with broadcasting and then telecommunications. Then, since I've always been involved in technology in one form or another, I got into augmented reality and artificial intelligence. So in about 2017, and again, I'll try to be succinct. I was sitting at a local park, and while I was at the park, I can't truly recall why I was there. I just remember that I was sitting on a park bench, and I think I was enjoying a coffee at the time. But point being, as I'm sitting there, all of a sudden I see, looking at everyone, just enjoying the day, and I see this elderly woman leave her car, pop out her phone, start looking at it, and look at a tree. It looked to me like she was looking towards a tree, and then go to the tree with her phone. I thought nothing of it. Then out of the corner of my eye, I see this couple come over, and they start doing it. That's over here, somebody else. So after a while, there's almost a dozen different people they look to be from all walks of life, from all demographics, young or younger and older, and just male, female. And then I see them all gather around this tree. I'm thinking, this is 2017. I'm thinking, what the heck? So I just got up and
Tree.
It's trees. So hey, I got tree people, my kind of people. They talk to trees. So so I walked over, and I asked them, do you mind? What is it you're doing? And one of them answers me, Pokemon. And I had heard Pokemon. I had heard of it, and I remember saying Pokemon. They said, yeah. So they started to explain it a little bit more to me how it worked, because I heard of it. It had just come out. And they made me very familiar with it. And I said, okay, that's great. And I remember thinking to myself, surrounding the park were all these mom and pop shops, right? I mean, little stores, little eateries, little real estate office, the agency. So thinking to myself, instead of people going to trees, maybe I said to myself, why don't they come up with a game that takes people into these stores? Now that would be a good idea. So I went back and kept on thinking about that. About 2 years later, there's an ad that I replied to where a company was looking for a CEO. So I contacted the fellow who had started the company, and as it turns out, he had created a mobile game. So the same thing that I had already been thinking about, this mobile game, but it was a mystery. And the whole idea was that people would have these different mysteries around their town. Again, a little bit more to do than just chasing ghosts with Pokemon, and more interactive because you'd have people at least going to different locations.
Right.
So I said, long story short, so I partnered up with him. I formed the company. I was majority stakeholder. He was minority stakeholder. And I completely changed the format so we could start going to these different stores.
Nice.
It didn't work out too well. So I decided to just go off on my own. Since it was a startup, as I said, I just went off on my own. And just as I was about to start the company up, we got hit with the pandemic. So for the last 2 years, the company's been on a standstill. But in a nutshell, what makes Mystery on Main Street so different than this game that this company that I've just described is the way Mystery on Main Street works, and the whole premise behind it is to bring business back to the locals. In fact, that's even the motto: bring business back to the locals. And the way it does that is an individual will download onto their mobile phone this game. Keep in mind that the game, well, I'll get into that, but you download the phone into your mobile phone. And once you do, you now have a map of all the local communities, business communities in your area, and it'll tell you if there's any what's called Mystery on Main Street gameplays that are going on. So this Mystery on Main Street gameplay, if there's a Mystery on Main Street gameplay that's going on in, let's say, that downtown area, there's always a story behind it. So maybe that downtown area has a history of maybe a local store that was burnt down 130 years ago and nobody ever found out how it was burnt down. So in this gameplay, it might be called, who burnt the Joneses store? And your whole idea is to determine through a series of clues that your mobile phone will give you, who was it that burnt down this store? But in order to get the clues, you have to go to the location and actually browse inside the location. You have to be inside the location before you will get a clue, and you have to be there for at least several minutes. The advantage to this is the shop owner, he now has the captured audience. He's got someone who has gone to that store. Now, mind you, there might be 100 different stores that are playing stores and eateries that are in that gameplay. So if I go to that particular store out of 100, it's because I choose to go there. And that might be because maybe I just happen to have been looking for a new pair of shoes. And this particular store sells shoes. You've got this one that sells shoes. You've got an ice cream shop. You've got one that sells dresses. You've got a tire store. The point being is that I chose to go to that store, not yes to play the game, but also to see what they have. So, because I happen to be in the market for it. So anyway, so once I'm inside the store, I tap on the phone, and an augmented reality character pops up and asks me, how can I help you, or something to that effect. I tell them I'm here to solve the mystery, and it'll say, okay, what's your response to this clue? And a bunch of clues will come out, and I'll say, okay, it's A, and the character will say, stick around, I'll be back. So for 5 minutes, I'm walking around the store, and 5 minutes later, the augmented reality character, dings my phone, pops up and says, nah, you were wrong, keep on looking. Or it might say you were right. If I'm wrong, I'm allowed to go to the very next store after 15 minutes. So it gives me a chance to browse around the store. If I'm right, it'll tell me, you got it, you got the first clue to solve the mystery. To get the next clue, you'll have to wait 12 hours. Now, the reason for that is we don't want anyone capable of solving the mystery so quickly that there's no point in going to very many stores. We want this to be a gameplay. We want to be an actual game that people can enjoy. The the way it'll be set up is it'll take 3 to 4 weeks before any one person will be able to solve that mystery. And if a team of people try to solve it, it'll be very difficult because each phone, every time they register for that gameplay, well, the phone's registered. What that means is if I receive one clue and if all of a sudden I come back the next day and I said, I've got the answer to the mystery, it's because I've been part of a team, and that won't be allowed. You have to follow certain steps in order to be allowed to claim the prize. And the prize is, if you solve the mystery, it could be several $100s. It could be $300, it could be $100, it could be $1,000. There's a lot of elements that go into what the final amount is going to be. So in the end, the shop owner, eatery owner, they win because they've got a targeted audience that they've been able to capture and bring to them. And you've got a player who also wins because they have an opportunity to make some instant cash by doing something they do anyway, which is shopping. And for all those that maybe they didn't win any cash, no worries, because there'll be other additional prizes, and including shirts. Now, it goes beyond just getting shirts, because the more you play, the more you raise in rank. So the more you raise in rank, you'll get to the point that you'll get a free clue. So there's a lot of benefits to play often. And also, one of the things that we stress of all the shop owners and all the eateries is offer these players a discount, maybe right on the spot, or for them to return. Maybe offer them a free, something free, or a discount or something, so that they will want to return. It's really up to the shop owner to do that. So that, in a bit of a nutshell, is a big nutshell, I guess, is how Mystery on Main Street works.
Exciting. Now, is it only in the Florida area? Are you planning to take this nationwide? Where is Mystery on Main Street able to be played?
So Mystery on Main Street, there's a whole new Mystery on Main Street coming out with the original company called Once Upon a Crime. That's one that I was talking, that was the original one that I had formed. So that's one that a working application and all back then. But with Mystery on Main Street, I'm in the process of creating that app. So it's not ready yet, but once it's ready, it'll be ready for use worldwide.
Nice.
So if you're in Florida, if you're in a local community, and you obviously you're going to go for games that you can drive to or you can walk to, because you want it within your local community, within your local area. Right. But what's good about this is, let's say you're not in Florida, let's say you're in Minnesota, but for the winter you're coming to Mickey Land, right, Disneyland, and you say, you know what, I'm an avid game player, let me see if there's any game plays that are going on in Orlando. So you get on your phone, you look up in the map Orlando, and you say, voila, there's 5 different gameplays going on. And wait a minute, I happen to be a collector of antiques, and here's an antique store called Sue's Antiques in Orlando. So wow, so that's the other good thing about it. It allows people from all over the planet to see your store in your location. So if they're headed that way, they know where you're at.
It's really bringing foot traffic back into the local stores and providing gameplay aspect in order to have them really begin, generating that foot traffic back into the stores. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to check it out. I can't wait for you to let us know when that is available. So I would love to know, if you had the ability to go back, say 10, 15 years, Maria, and tell yourself just one thing, what do you think that would be?
What do I think of? Listen. Yeah, that's it. Listen. One of the most important lessons, and I'm telling your audience, your entrepreneur audience, from someone who, as I said earlier, who started his first company at the age of 5, who was who was delivering newspapers at 9 and then again at 11 and going to car dealers at 18 and had half a dozen companies, if not more, since then. One of the things that I didn't do when I was younger is I didn't listen enough. I heard, I would hear, but I wouldn't listen. There's a distinct difference. So my suggestion is anyone who has an opportunity to listen to what somebody else who may know more than they do has to say, then you listen to that person. I'm not saying you have to go in whatever direction that person is telling you to go, but listen to that person, listen to what they have to say, and listen to why it is that they have to say it. So that's very important. It's not a question of just listening to everybody, but listening to those people that can help you move forward, help you in your endeavors. And when you listen as to what it is that they want you to do, or what it is that they believe that you should do, or where it is that they think you should go, but also listen for why they think that. There has to be a foundation for why. It's common sense to you, then maybe you should go that route.
Definitely. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. I'm sure both the audience and my daughter are very tired of that phrase, but that's the only way to grow is feedback. So I think listening is the key to the ability to grow. So thank you for that one. If you had a magic wand and could possibly change anything at all in your business, I'd love to know what that might be. We would love for the show to really go ahead and serve our viewers as well. And the theme, as you know, is to hear the journey, find the challenges, and create solutions. So we'd love to know if that magic wand were truly in existence and we could just wave it and change everything. Mario, what would you change in your practice today?
In the business?
Yes.
Yes. Well, as I said, I in the process of getting the business up and started, I restarted again. So like any business, it requires several zeros in the bank account. So any wand that can create several zeros in the bank account, that's a good wand. I like that.
I love that wand.
I like that wand.
I love that wand.
Anyone who's got that sort of wand, because not only it's not only important to me that someone say to me, okay, listen, I can write you a check today. That's great. But someone who says, you know what, I really truly like what you're doing, and I want to write your check, but be a part of it. Absolutely. Because if someone has gotten to that point, that means they've got a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge that they can share. And I'm always looking for smart people, right? Aren't we all? Aren't we all always looking for smart people?
Always. You can't listen if there's nobody to listen to, Mario.
That's it. And you speak to smart people, and hopefully you get smarter. Hopefully.
That's the point of the show. That's what I'm doing here. Mario, it's been outstanding. I thank you so much for sharing your journey and your time with us today. Please share the best way for our audience to find you.
The best way to find me is you can go to the website, mysteryonmainstreet.com, and you can contact me through the contact form there. You're more than welcome to email me at info@mysteryonmainstreet.com, and I will get back to you.
mysteryonmainstreet.com. I will be sure to include a link to that through the show notes page. Mario, thank you again.
Well, thank you very much, Loya. This has been a great experience and a great opportunity, and I hope that everything I have to say and everything I've said is something that your audience can take in and use it as well.
I think if they actually do what you said and listen, they'll find the nuggets themselves too. Mario, you've been outstanding. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.